A few chuckles while everyone remembers that they have to select the button. Beautiful. So, welcome. You are invited to make yourself comfortable on the floor. The buzzword is don't get too comfortable. So, ideally, lying on your back with knees bent, I think would be nicely supportive for you. And consider the space that you're taking up. Consider if you perhaps want to gift yourself a little more room. You might want to widen the arms, widen the feet, and take up a little bit of space. We spend so much time fitting into a neat little space, staying out of bother, that we forget that when we're in our own space, we can expand and widen and take full advantage of the fact that someone has given you permission to lie down. Notice as you get yourself comfortable how you've chosen to position your hands. Are your fingers soft? Have you allowed your wrists and your forearms to soften? Do you feel as if you're drawing your shoulders up towards your ears? This is one of those few times when you don't need to be on high alert. There's nowhere else you need to be. There's nothing else you need to do. We've made a commitment to ourselves that for the next hour, we'll focus on the body and the breath and bringing a little bit of calm into our otherwise busy lives. Think about the position of your chin. Perhaps nod the chin a little closer to the chest, enjoying for a moment that gentle release through the back of the neck. Perhaps noticing a little widening between the shoulder blades. Fully let go the weight of the top of your body, sinking to release into the flats of the shoulder blades, spreading through the wide muscles of the back, resting across the back of the hips, softening the thighs, ankles and feet, released. Check in if you've allowed your tongue to rest in the well of the mouth, or if you still feel it wedged up into the roof of your mouth. Unclench the jaw. In fact, let's just give ourselves a moment to release the jaw, opening the mouth wide, and almost like a cow chewing the cud, drawing circles with the jaw. Good job you're lying on your back, you can't see the face. Change direction, draw those circles the opposite way. And just feel through this action how you soften the tension in the jaw. As you bring yourself to relax and release once more, you might feel the need to yawn. Now bring your awareness to the breath, slowing the breath down, deepening the inhalation, lengthening the exhalation, allowing the breath to reach deeper towards the belly, fully exhaling, releasing tension. Breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. Allow that out breath to be audible. Make it a little noisier. Deep breath in through the nose and out breath through the mouth. Repeat a deep breath in through the nose. And on that slightly noisier out breath now, try to make that sound come out almost like a steam iron, Let's practice that once more. In through the nose, steam iron through the mouth. Let's do two further full breath rotations of this Ujjayi breath. A deep breath in through the nose, this time releasing the breath with an audible sigh. Now that might have created a little bit of dizziness in the forehead, so just bring your awareness back. The back of the body resting on the floor to your space within this room, returning the breath to a natural, easy rhythm, so not forcing the breath. Check in again with the rest of the body. So let's start by releasing through the neck, gently rolling through the back of the head, bringing the right ear parallel to the floor, following the nose rather than the chin. So we're not pushing the chin up as we bring the head back to center, then over to bring the left ear parallel to the floor. Resting here to just allow that little extra release. Inhaling once more to return to center. Have a little wiggle in the fingers, a little wriggle in the toes. Make sure you've got that bend in the knees as you bring the fingertips in towards the palms to make fists. So create a little bit of tension now in the palms of the hands, into the wrists, through the forearms, into the upper arms. Inhaling now to squeeze the shoulders up towards the ears. So we're holding that tension from the palms of the hands up to the shoulders, holding that tension up towards the ears. On the next exhalation, open the fingers and release. Let the arms rest towards the floor. On the next inhale, lift both arms overhead. It might be that you've got the ability to bring the arms all the way overhead. If that doesn't work for you, don't come all the way, just rest the arms in the position that you feel supported. Inhale to widen through the chest. As you exhale, float the arms up and over again, bringing the hands back either side of the hips. Now let's take the arms up wide so that we're coming out to a T formation. Back of the hands rested on the floor, palms turned up towards the ceiling. Take a deep breath in, widening from fingertip to fingertip. On the breath out, roll the knees over to the right side. Just keep the head in center for now. And just allow that gentle opening through the left side of the lower back. Focus again on the inhale to widen from fingertip to fingertip. As you exhale, you're drawing the tummy button in, rolling the knees back through center, taking the knees over to the opposite side. Again, for now, just keeping the head in center, trying to keep nicely equally weighted through the back of the hips. Just noticing anywhere that feels a little tighter. On the next inhalation, widen again, fingertip to fingertip. Exhaling to draw the tummy button in, bringing the knees back again towards center. Now let's step the feet a little wider. So I like to position the feet all the way to the edge of the mat. So we've created quite a gap between the knees. On the out breath, we'll repeat again, taking both knees over to the right side. So this doesn't feel as much on the lower back, perhaps noticing the inner thigh. Then turning your gaze over the left arm. Inhaling again to widen, fingertip to fingertip, opening out through the chest. On the exhalation, draw the tummy button in. We'll roll the knees through center, dropping the knees over to the left side, turning the head over the length of the right arm. So again, just notice the difference you feel between one side to the other. Inhaling to create space, exhaling to engage the core, rolling the knees back again to center. Let's just gently draw the knees towards one another. So we're effectively leaning the knees in, widening the space through the back of the hips, and clench the buttocks. On an inhale, lift both arms overhead again. If it's within your range of movement, bring the back of the hands to the floor. Widen through the chest, soften the shoulders down away from the ears. As you exhale, draw the thumbs together to create an interlock here. Wide through the chest on the inhale. On the next out breath, we're squeezing both shoulders over to the right side. So effectively, what's the word I'm looking for? Scraping the back of the shoulders along the floor, tucking the chin into the left armpit, creating a little opening into that left side of the rib cage. Inhaling again to return to center, then exhaling, squeezing the upper back over to the left side, turning to tuck the chin into the right armpit. Exhale, engage the core. Inhale to return once more to center. Bringing the hands back down now, either side of the hips, and taking a bit of repositioning there with the feet and the knees. So drawing the heels back in line with the hips, insides of the feet parallel. Let's keep those hands either side of the hips, shoulder blades drawn together. Inhale now to press into the soles of the feet, lifting the bottom from the floor. So there's a temptation here when we first come into the supported bridge lift of rolling to the outside edge of the feet, of allowing the knees to release. Let's try to keep the insides of the thighs tracking parallel. Inhaling to press the shins forward, lifting the thighs a little higher. Avoiding putting too much weight into the neck or the shoulders. So keep pressing the shins forward. Keep lengthening that opening through the front of the thigh, the hip flexor. Once more, inhaling to lift the arms overhead. Again, invitation to bring the arms all the way to the floor. Pressing the shins forward, lifting the thighs higher, really exaggerating now that opening through the upper thoracic spine. Taking our time now to start to gently roll down through the spine, working on the exhale from the space between the shoulder blades, releasing vertebra by vertebra towards the floor. Coming through middle back, into lower back. Nice release and opening there at the side of the rib cage, right into the pectoral muscles, into the underarms. On the out breath, draw both knees in towards the chest, placing the hands to the shins to just deepen that release. Let's gently rock from one side to the other. Feels like a soft massaging action over the back of the hips. Changing that action into drawing a figure of 8 with the knees. So it feels like more of a rock and roll action. Taking it a little bit wider to the outside edge of the hips. Then returning again to center. Replace both feet on the floor. So I think hands either side of the hips is a good position. Widening through the chest again, drawing the shoulder blades together to create that flat surface to lean the upper body weight into. On the next inhalation, lift and lengthen the right leg up towards the ceiling. On the exhale, tuck the toe in towards the shin. So inhaling, lengthening a little more. Exhaling, drawing the toe a little deeper to the shin. Feeling that slight stretch through the hamstring, through the back of the calf. Inhale to point the toe. Exhale to flex. Inhale to point. Exhale to flex. Using the big toe now to draw 3 circles in towards the midline of the body. Then changing direction, taking those circles the opposite way. One more time, pointing, flexing, resting the hands now behind the thigh. So giving yourself a little bit of purchase to draw the thigh closer towards the belly. Try to keep that little bend out of the knee. So with every out breath, we're pushing a little more keenly through the heel, widening through the chest. In breath to find a little release. Exhale to deepen the stretch. On the next out breath, let's bend that right knee in again. We're directing the knee towards the right armpit. So we're taking it out a little from center. Let's now take hold of the right big toe, or if it's easier, just take hold of that ankle. Use the right hand as you extend the left arm back out to that half T position. Inhale to push the right heel up towards the ceiling. So with that little bit of resistance now, we can feel a deeper stretch into the hamstring, a little bit more action into the inner thigh. We want to try to keep the shoulders and the back of the hips square. On an out breath, releasing that right foot out to the right, keeping hold of either the ankle or the big toe. There comes a point when clearly you can't go any further because our arms are not super bionic. Keep pressing through the heel, perhaps nudging the left knee a little wider open if that helps to keep the back of the hips square to the floor. As you exhale, engage the core, slide that right foot back to center. Take a little bend again to that right knee, hug the knee in towards the chest, then replace that right foot to the floor. I always like at this point to have a little reckoning, noticing that the right leg feels about an inch longer, and also noticing that the right hip has lowered a little towards the floor. The left hip feels a little more proud. So same sequence again on the left side. Inhale to lift and lengthen through the left leg. So we start with a gentle point and flex. So we're kind of working slowly into creating space through the back of the calf, into the hamstring. As we come into a more definitive flex in the foot, pressing through the heel, we can feel that little bit of challenge, that little bit of give and take. Again, it might help you to bring the hands behind the thigh, exhaling to draw the thigh closer to the chest, inhaling to press through the heel, reminding ourselves to keep ironing out that bend in the knee. And further little nudging towards the chest. Then on the out breath, bend the left knee in. Hug that knee towards the chest. Then as before, we're going to direct that left knee out towards the left armpit. So it's just a little bit out from center. We'll take the right arm out to make that half T. Bring the left hand to the inside of the knee, taking hold of ankle or big toe. Exhaling to push through the heel. So we start with a fairly tolerable stretch. For most of us, we'll still have a bend in the knee. We're working with the breath to just keep pressing through that heel. On the exhale, we'll transfer a little bit of that stretch into the inner thigh by widening that left leg. Remember, I think it helps to just let your right knee drop a little further open. Keeps you equally weighted through the back of the hips. Keep pressing through the heel. It's feeling a little more uncomfortable now. Then as you exhale, draw the tummy button in and slide that foot back again to center. Take a nice comfortable bend on that left knee. Hug the knee to the chest. Then replace that foot to the floor. So again, I'm just checking in. Both of the hips now feel a little more relaxed, a little wider. We haven't hammered the hip joints. We've just gently allowed a little bit of movement around the hip joints. Bring the soles of the feet together now, allowing the knees to widen. Take the arms back out to that T shape. We can intensify the level of stretch that we're achieving on the inner thigh by drawing the heels a little closer to the groin, keeping the soles of the feet touching and allowing the knees to become a little heavier. So widening that stretch in this supine Baddha Konasana. I'm going to go back in and repeat the waist stretch that we did earlier. So if we bring the hands to an interlock, park that interlock behind the back of the head. So the tip here is to widen the elbows so that the upper arms are parallel to the floor. We don't want the elbows up in the air. It makes the next action a little bit trickier to achieve. The nice thing about having the head about an inch from the floor is that that action of squeezing the shoulders across the mat is a little easier to achieve. So on an out breath, visualize that you're leading with the right elbow. You're bringing that right elbow towards the right knee, all the while squeezing that left elbow back. So there's almost like a crunch sensation on the right side of the waist and a big opening and stretch to the left of the waist and the rib cage. Inhale again to come to center. Exhale, follow the left elbow down, widening through the right. So again, we're squeezing into that left side of the waist, opening and widening into the right side of the waist and the rib cage. As you exhale, engage the core and return again to center. Let's reset the back of the head to the mat, relax the neck, reposition the hands either side of the hips, engage the core, draw the thighs towards one another. Take a moment to reset the heels hip width apart. Now, once more, visualize your breath. Remember that with every out breath, we draw the tummy button in and we want to close that little gap under the lower back. On the next exhalation, mindfully draw the tummy button in and lift the feet from the floor. Position the knees directly above the hips, making a right angle with the knees. So we're coming into our reverse table position. So good rule of thumb here is to keep the feet hip width distance apart, insides of the feet parallel. Avoid where you can resting the feet or the thighs together. You should almost be able to fit a little mini football between your knees. If you're finding that this becomes a little disturbing in your lower back, drawing the knees a little closer will help to roll the lower back to the floor. Just don't be tempted to do that too much because you will then cheat yourself of the benefits of this core engagement. So for most of us, we can now feel that the lower abdominals are kind of rising up. They're almost fighting against the core muscles in terms of that stabilization. So bring your full awareness to the breath. Send the breath down to that space between the hips. As you exhale, almost visualize drawing the hip bones together, tucking that lower abdominals back down towards the floor. So inhale, bringing a cooling action. Exhale, engaging a little further. Great. Now let's keep that static contraction, bringing the arms now directly above the shoulders, wrists in line with the shoulders. So we're not reaching, we're resting back. Palms of the hands facing together. Then on the next exhalation, slide the arms back, resting the thumbs an inch from the floor. Wide through the chest, engaged in the core. We're going to pause in this static contraction. Try not to hold the breath, but hold the pose for a further count of 3, 2, and 1. On the exhale, hug both knees in towards the chest. We're going to keep the knees drawn in, taking the arms back out to that T shape. With the knees drawn in, we're going to do our third version of twisting through the belly. So taking the knees over to the right side, Because the knees are stacked one above the other, the back of the buttock will lift off the floor. So let's try to keep that left shoulder anchored by turning the gaze over the left arm. Inhaling again from fingertip to fingertip. Breathing space into that left side of the rib cage, softening the left shoulder to the floor. Let's take one further full breath rotation in this extended stretch. Then as you come to the next exhale, draw the tummy button in, roll the knees through center. Inhale to widen through the chest. Exhale to roll the knees to the left side, this time taking your gaze over the right arm. Again, there's every chance that you're more flexible on one side than the other, so notice if there's any tension, any resistance on this side. Work with your breath to create space, softening that right shoulder to the floor. I always think that extra breath held in this twist just helps you to even out those rough edges. Inhaling from fingertip to fingertip. Exhaling to engage the core, rolling the knees back again through center. Our final little hug of the knees in towards the chest. Then replace the feet to the floor. I kept you on your backs a little longer than I'd intended. I chucked in some naughty tummies there while I thought I had the chance. So because I've been lying down a little longer, just take a moment to roll to one side. And then when you're ready, bring yourself up into a seated position. Lovely. Perfect. So in your seated position, remember that we always want to make sure that we're lifting out of the sit bones, that we're not rolling back onto the tailbone. That will always ensure that we've got a nice long spine. So even if it almost feels as though you're leaning forward, you want that lift. Let's tuck the left heel in towards the groin. Position the right heel in front of the left. So it's not a cross-leg position. It's what we call perfect pose. And I'm sure you feel far from perfect doing it. I can do it on one side and not the other. So think about that imaginary wall behind your back as you lean into the space, leaning the back of your head, the back of your shoulders against that wall, turning the palms up towards the ceiling. So as we started when we were laying on the floor, we'll inhale to lift the shoulders up towards the ears. So we're kind of putting a bit of tension in. Then as you exhale, release. Inhale to squeeze up. Exhale to release. Perfect. Let's position the right hand behind the right hip. Bring the left hand to the right knee. So straight away this starts a chain reaction of bringing the body into a twist. So let's for a moment just resist that, lifting again out of the sit bones, then following the left side, right side of the rib cage to draw yourself into a deeper twist. So we're taking care not to lean over the body. We're taking care to make sure that that twist comes from the right side of the rib cage. Again, we're just taking a little extra breath in our postures tonight, just to intensify twists a little deeper. So inhale, lift up and out of the sit bones. Exhale, just see if we can squeeze an extra ½ inch into that twist. Inhale to lift. Then as you exhale, soften the twist, bring both hands to rest on front of the knees. Inhale to lift and lengthen, rolling the shoulders back and down. Exhale to draw the tummy button in. Start curving through the spine from the lower back, middle back, tucking the chin to the chest now, curving into a seated cat stretch. As you inhale, we're using the hands on the outside of the knees to help drive the sternum forward, lifting the gaze, keeping the shoulders down, and opening the gaze towards the ceiling. So exhale again to curve into that seated cat stretch, really focusing on that lower back space. That's where we hold the tension. Inhaling, lifting and leading through the sternum, bringing your gaze up towards the ceiling. This time on the exhale, no curve, just bring yourself back into that seated upright position. Left hand behind left hip, right hand to left knee. A moment to realign, so lift and lengthen. Then as you exhale, following the left side of the rib cage now. And I usually find it takes me 2 or 3 breaths to get into the full twist. One further, squeeze, and inhale to lift and lengthen. Then on the exhale, again bring both hands forward, resting the hands on the knees. Little adjustment as you just refine the bony parts of the sit bones, positioning both hands in front of that right foot. Inhale to lift up and lengthen. Then as you exhale, it's quite a small movement, quite subtle, as you walk hand over hand to bring the chest parallel to the floor. So if we go too far too fast, the tendency here is to curve the upper back, which means that we're not really getting the stretch where we need it. If we can try to remember to keep the back of the head in line with the back of the tailbone, if we can try to keep that diagonal line, we'll benefit from a deeper opening in the inner thigh. And with every out breath, we come into the position of being able to bring the elbows to the floor, gently touching the forearms to the floor. Bringing the gaze to the end of the fingers rather than letting the head become heavy. Take a deep breath in through the nose. As you exhale, lift the elbows, slide the fingertips forward. Lift the palms from the floor, so fingertips touching the floor, arms are up. Now we can bring the weight of the head forward, positioning the ears between the upper arms. As you exhale, engage the core. Reposition the hands in front of that right foot. Push into the palms to inhale, lift. Exhale, return to that centered position. Lovely. Let's switch that leg cross over. At this point, this is where it all goes horribly wrong for me. So we bring the right heel in first. The left foot now is stacked in front. Sometimes you find that you've got one knee higher than the other. Could be knee tightness, could be hip tightness. We're all different. Lift up and lengthen. Again, imagine that you're sitting back against your wall. This time we're going to work a little more through the shoulders. So bring the arms firstly to that T shape. So the palms are facing forward, thumbs up. Bring the fingertips in towards the palms, shoulder blades drawn together. So this engagement just builds heat in the upper body. It's quite passive action, just keeping that straight line from wrist to wrist. Just because I'm feeling a little bit naughty tonight, I'm just going to take it a little bit more energetic. So we'll start by relaxing the fingers, giving the fingers a wiggle, and then we'll draw little circles with the fingers to create a little bit of movement in the wrists. Change direction, take that movement back. Fab. Now we want to lock the wrists into flexion, so pressing through the heels of the palms. Keep drawing the shoulder blades together. I use the word lock. What we want to keep is a little bit of softness in the elbows. Now start to draw little circles using the palms as your guide, almost as though you're washing windows. We'll change direction, we'll take those circles back. Then once more we'll come back to pause, not holding the breath, just holding the pose. And because we're in the zone, we'll do 3 forward. I know it's warm in the shoulders, but we'll get there. 3 back, you're still smiling. For now. One more pause. Sorry for those of you that went, yeah, thanks, I'll just come into Anjali Mudra now. Not yet. Why don't we turn the palms up towards the ceiling? Give a little wiggle in the fingers. No, stop, you're being cruel. And bring the hands together in an Anjali Mudra. Ah, oh, that's lush, isn't it? Who knew? Inhale now to lift both arms overhead. So once more, think about ears between the upper arms. Think about creating that lift, that length through the side of the body. You can either stay in the Anjali Mudra, or if it helps, you can bring your thumbs into interlock. I have to do this because my hands always spring apart. As you exhale, keeping the sit bone square, we're coming again into that sideways lean, tucking the chin into the armpit, keeping those shoulders pulled back together. Inhale to lift, come back to center. Lift again on an inhalation, exhale, ease to the opposite side. If we go so far, we can feel the sit bone lifting off the floor. We've just gone a bit too far. Inhale, lift, come back to center. Re-center that Anjali Mudra in front of the heart. Almost like press the palms together, but keep the fingers soft, shoulder blades drawn together, lifting through the sternum. As you exhale, bring the hands into an interlock behind the lower back. Keep drawing the shoulder blades together, engage the core. So watch out for the chin in this action. There's always a temptation to look up. Keep the underside of the chin parallel to the floor as you squeeze the arms away from the lower back, exaggerating that opening through the chest, through the collarbones. It's not an action we do in everyday life. Kelly, get that chin down. She's like, oh yeah, I heard you say that and I forgot. Then as you exhale, release. Beautiful. Take the hands apart. Widen the feet. So coming into a wide leg. I think we did this last week. I think we did a wide leg fold. So keep the knees nice and soft. The name of the game is not to smash your feet again or the back of your knees against the floor. It's to keep a little bit of movement through the back of the thighs. Important once more that we don't roll back to the tailbone, so lift and find that space. We're once more going to come into that diagonal hinge forward. So by all means use the hands, and you'll know when it's too much for your lower back. So I always think an inhale to lift, and it reminds me to put space between the vertebrae, and then an exhale to start guiding the elbows towards the floor. I like the idea of bringing the forearms to the floor because it kind of stops you from overreaching. So rather than sliding the hands forward and lifting the shoulders, this way keeps you, it just feels a little bit more balanced, a little more supported. Engage the core. Just pick those hands up, position them wherever you can reach. So it might be the shins, it might be the ankles, it might be the soles of the feet, might be the toes. So we're keeping the shoulders parallel to the floor. A further inhalation to re-lengthen the spine, and exhalation to just sink a little deeper again. So trying to bring the shoulders, the chest parallel to the floor. Beautiful. Keep that core engagement. Walk the hands back to center. Use the upper body weight into the palms so that you don't overdo the lower back as you lift and lengthen back to center. Beautiful. Slide the feet together. Perfect. And we'll come into an all fours position. So in our all fours position, knees under hips. I'll have to put your clip in, I can't see you. The hair's getting in my eyes. So wrists under shoulders, knees under hips. Knees are hip width distance apart, no wider, no closer. Elbows are soft. And it sometimes helps to just spread the fingers because that reminds you not to put tension into the wrists. Let's do a nice easy one to begin with. Turn both toes under. We did this one in a seated position. So again, think about lifting the tummy button to start the curve in the lower back. Lift the lower back, the middle back. Forget about the upper back. Tuck the tailbone under. Draw the chin to the chest. As a reverse, rest on the tops of the feet. And as we did seated, we're following the sternum, lifting the sternum forward. It's okay to lift the gaze, but no need to exaggerate. Let the lower back soften here, and you'll notice that the curve has gone the opposite direction. So exhaling to roll up, taking as much time as you need to get into that full stretch. Inhaling to reverse, lifting the sternum forward. Easing ourselves back into a nice neutral spine, all fours position, walking both hands forward, reaching towards the end of the mat, but keeping the elbows soft. So we want to keep the palms connected to the mat rather than slide them. So imagine that they're stuck there with glue. Then as you exhale, push the sit bones towards the heels. Think about creating a diagonal again as you lower the ears between the upper arms, but no further. On the next out breath, see if we can push the sit bones a little deeper to the heels. We're back into that space under the arms at the side of the rib cage. Or perhaps creating a little more space between the shoulder blades. Then lower down onto the forearms. Inhale to lift the chest forward. Just turn the toes under to help you slide the thighs back to the floor. We're going to keep the chest slightly lifted off the floor, shoulder blades drawn together, pressing into the forearms, inhaling to lift the chest forward. As you exhale, turn and look over the right shoulder. As you inhale, bring your gaze forward again. Exhale to look over the left shoulder. Inhale to bring the gaze forward once more. Lower down now, bringing the forehead onto the mat. Repositioning the hands either side of the chest. So the forearms and elbows have come off the floor. To avoid us taking on that action of flapping like a chicken or a duck, bring the elbows to either side of the rib cage, down towards the waist. Push into the palms, push into the thighs. Inhale, lift the chest. If we're doing this right, we shouldn't be feeling it in the lower back. We're opening the sternum, creating a little more space through the upper spine. As you exhale, engage the core. Return once more to that extended child's pose. This time, rather than being very rigid of having the hands stuck to the mat like glue, lift the fingertips, give the fingers a little wiggle, and keep pushing the sit bones to the heels. Press the wrists into the mat with the fingers lifted, so fingers are in flexion. Then on and out breath, replace the palms to the floor. Lift back up into an all fours position. I'm simply going to reposition the palms under the shoulders, turn the toes under. You can do the next action in half the time or double the time that I do it, jumping the feet forward. I'm staying side on. You can see that I'm a bit of a hobbit, so I can get my heels to the floor. You might be here with the heels up. Don't worry, if you are, we're all different. If you can get your heels down, I'm going to set you into a position where you're almost bringing the sit bones parallel to the floor, parking the elbows kind of between the thighs and coming into the Anjali Mudra position. If your heels are lifted, try not to take your weight forward. So perhaps lift the chest a little higher. You might have to lift the elbows off the knees. And we'll just focus on staying in this supported posture for a count of 4, 3, 2, and 1. Keep the heels up, bring the hands down. Let's keep the heels lifted as we push into the balls of the feet and lift up into a standing position. Perfect. Try to now bring the insides of the feet parallel. Chances are your knees and your toes were turned out. So we'll come into a mountain pose. Again, I'll stay side on. Inhale to lift the shoulders up towards the ears. As you exhale, a little more control as we roll the shoulders back and down. Repeating something we did in the seated postures, bringing the hands to an interlock behind the lower back. So be careful here that you don't lock the knees out. We're keeping nice and soft. Visualize that you're pressing the thighs towards the back of the room and tucking the tailbone under. Then as you exhale, lift the hands away from the lower back, opening again across the chest. Again, not a normal action, so feels a little strange. Then as you exhale, release. Bring the hands onto the hips. Keep the knees soft, but again with that intention of pressing the thighs back, tucking the tailbone under. Inhaling to lift and lengthen, exhaling to hinge forward, no further than a 90-degree angle. So a little bit of a set square, pressing the sit bones to the back of the room, drawing the shoulder blades together. Let's bring the hands to an Anjali Mudra. And rather than straightening up, we're actually going to bend the knees. So imagine that you're coming down onto an imaginary stool, coming into chair pose. So chair pose will work best if we don't allow the knees to shoot forward. So try to remain, have the knees remaining anchored over the ankles, pushing the sit bones towards the back of the room. And we're just again going to hold the posture, not the breath. Check in with your own shape. What we're looking for is that we don't have too much curvature in the upper body. We want to see that lovely diagonal, or the straight line actually, from the back of the head to the back of the tailbone, the shoulder blades drawn together. We're putting strength into the thighs. Beautiful. So in a moment, we're going to lift up into a standing position. When we do so, we won't be locking the knees out, and we'll continue to take the arms overhead. So exhale, draw the tummy button in. Inhale, push into the soles of the feet. Lift the arms up overhead. Beautiful. As you exhale, you're coming back into that chair position, but rather than coming into a straight position, we're taking the left elbow to the outside of the right thigh, coming into a twist. So keep drawing that right shoulder back, looking up towards the ceiling. Beautiful. Inhale to widen through the chest. Exhale, engage the core. Inhale, lift up. Lift the arms overhead. On the exhale, coming back into that twist on the opposite side. So we'll build this up now into a bit of a flow. So inhale, lift the arms up. Exhale, come into the twist on the right. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, twist on the left. Inhale, lift. Exhale, twist. Inhale, lift. Exhale, twist. Last set. Inhale, lift. Exhale, twist. Back to center. One more time to the left. Inhale, lift. Come back to center. Then reposition the hands as an Anjali Mudra in front of the heart space. Take a moment here to close your eyes. Check in with the pace of your breath. Notice the heart rate. And again, we're going to make our breath a little noisier. So take a deep breath in through the nose. That sound of an iron on the out breath. In through the nose. Exhale. In through the nose. Exhale. One more time. And further deep breath in. As you exhale, a noisy sigh. Blink the eyes open. Reposition the hands on the hips. And we'll take the feet wider. So we're going to take the feet, planting them again in a parallel, so the insides of the feet are parallel. Keeping nice and soft in the knees so we don't get extra prizes for locking the knees out. Again, it always helps to have the hands on the hips, helps to control that action of hinging rather than rolling. So think of an inhale to lengthen the spine, and exhale to hinge, simply coming to a 90-degree angle. So in an ideal world, it feels as though the shoulders are parallel to the floor. Pressing the sit bones to the back of the room. By all means lifting the tailbone, but not locking the knees out. That's further than we need to go. Beautiful. So we did that little garland pose earlier, where some of us had our heels down, some of us had our heels lifted. I'm going to recommend that we all work on the balls of the feet, that we don't put the heels down for this next action. So we're going to come over onto the left knee. So the left knee is bent. We're lifting that heel from the floor, coming to balance on the ball of that foot. And then the right leg is extended with the toe turned up. So getting into the position is one thing. Finding balance in this position is quite another. So bring the hands to an Anjali Mudra and don't fall over. Easier said than done. Beautiful. We're all going, oh. Replace the hands to the floor. Scoop yourself over to the other side. So remember, it does help to keep the heel up. Opposite toe comes into flexion. I find this side I have a little more balance. Beautiful. Then replace the hands. Come back to center. Let's take the feet a little wider. So heel toe the feet wider. Park the insides of the feet parallel. It's okay to walk the hands further forward. It does take the stress off the back of the hamstrings, but don't go so far that you feel overbalanced. Press the sit bones towards the back of the room, lift the tailbone. On an exhale, start to ease the elbows towards the floor. So the same action as we did when we were in our cross leg position, we were in our wide leg position. We're working with the inner thigh. The hip joints are supported by the muscle groups. So we're considering that extra space that we need in the inner thighs. Back of the calves a little for me tonight. Then engage the core. Let's walk the hands back under the shoulders so that we feel supported again. Always a good idea to heel toe the feet a little closer because we went quite wide there. Keep a nice good old bend in the knees. Bring the hands onto the thighs. Keep looking down at the floor. Engage the core. Inhale, press the hands into the thighs. Unhinge, but keep looking down at the floor. Then bring the gaze forward and step the feet together. Beautiful. Lower back feeling good. So I'm going to kind of give you this final Shavasana, but a standing one. So I'm going to give you the choice whether you close your eyes or whether for you in this standing posture you feel a little bit better supported to just soften your gaze. Sometimes just finding an area on the floor or ideally on the horizon point ahead of you, just letting your gaze go a little bit blurry. That might be enough for you. So often when we close the eyes, the body keeps moving, it's trying to find its balance, it's trying to find its way. So I want you to fully bring your attention all the way down to the soles of the feet. So the soles of the feet are the widest part of your body at the moment, connecting with the floor. So feel that connection. Feel the full surface of the soles of your feet connect with the floor, avoiding rolling to the outside edge or the inside, equally distributed through the soles of the feet. Imagine that you've set roots down through the soles of your feet, so you ain't going anywhere. Now bring your awareness up to the ankles, to the calves and the shins. Make sure that your toes are nice and soft. Avoid gripping with the toes so that you can stay nice and soft in the ankles, the calves and the shins. This is a good time to check in that you haven't locked out the knees. So encourage that little softness. Travel up a little further north of the knees. And again, bring your awareness to perhaps pushing the thighs towards the back of the room. It's almost as though you're shortening the distance between the knee and the front of the hip. So we're kind of making that thigh muscle do a little bit more of the work. We should feel the back of the thighs soft, lengthened. A bit of stabilising happening in the inner thighs. But all the while, we feel very centred, very grounded through the soles of the feet. Now bring your awareness to the space across the back of the hips, to the space between the hips. Consider this space almost as though it's a bowl of water. So if you're tipped very far forward, you won't be able to maintain stability. Equally, if you're pushing forward with the hips and the thighs too much, you'll be spilling all that liquid out the back. So bring the hips into that bowl shape, tucking the tailbone under. You've got your eyes closed or your gaze softened, so why not just bring your hands to your bottom, have a little squeeze, and ideally we should feel that the buttocks are soft. We don't want the buttocks hard here. There's no stabilising going on with the buttocks. Whilst you've got your hands in the general region, why don't you run your hands over your belly? And you might feel that the belly feels a little bit more toned. So we've kind of switched on that core engagement, which is helping to keep us upright, stable and balanced. Just let the hands now rest by your side. Follow the length of your arms, inhaling to squeeze the shoulders up towards the ears. Exhaling to slowly roll the shoulders back and down. On the next inhalation, feel that space fill across the collarbones, across the chest. As you exhale, let the shoulders relax a little more deeply. On the next inhalation, bring your awareness to the space across the wide muscles of the back. So as you fill the lungs, you're expanding into the back of the rib cage. And as you exhale, draw the tummy button in, keep that stabilisation going. Keep the breath in this nice steady pace, inhaling to widen, exhaling to re-stabilise, engaging simply in the core. Bring your awareness to the top of the head, to the back of your head. Notice if you've perhaps taken your upper body weight forward. Try lining up the back of the head with the back of the heels, working again with the exhalation to re-stabilize, engaging the core. Underside of the chin parallel to the floor, jaw relaxed. And take a moment to blink the eyes open. Take a deep breath in through the nose. That steam iron breath out. In through the nose. Ujjayi breath. One more time. Send this next full deep inhalation all the way down through the length of your body, re-energizing. Exhale now with an audible sigh. Everything goes saggy, soggy. Soften it all up. Wiggle the fingers, wiggle the toes, little wiggle with the knees, little bouncy jiggle. Bring the hands to an Anjali Mudra. Touch to the head for kind thoughts, to the lips for kind words, and to the heart for kind intentions. The light in me honours the light in you. Namaste.